as a high performer, and we talk about survival skills. So look good, feel good, be right, be in control. My favorite is look good. I want to look good. And so that's high performer, what I'm going to default to. So to be able to confide in somebody, even a coach that I'm paying, here's where I'm really struggling. Here's what bad thought that's actually really going through my head right now, and being able to share that and be vulnerable about that. It's hard.
Welcome to the Beyond High Performance podcast, featuring content and conversations from me, Jason Jaggard, along with our elite coaches at Novus Global, their high-performing clients, and the faculty of the Meta Performance Institute for Coaching. On this podcast, you'll hear some of the world's best executive coaches and high-performing leaders, artists, and athletes discuss how they continue to go beyond high performance in their lives and businesses.
Hello, and welcome to the Beyond High Performance podcast. I'm David Miller, Chief Expansion Officer and Executive Coach at Novus Global. We love to partner with leaders and teams who refuse to settle for good enough and want to discover just how far they can go if they're committed to a vision. And so today, we're going to do just that. We're diving into the story of Jeff McMartin, president of Pliant Plastics, and his coach, Jean-Marie Jobs. If you're a leader, you've probably asked yourself questions like, how do I evolve as a leader, even after decades of experience? Or, how do I balance driving ambitious results with building a culture where people can thrive? Or maybe, how do I get out of my own way so my team and my company can reach their fullest potential? Well, this episode answers those questions through Jeff's remarkable journey. Jeff has been with Pliant Plastics since 2013, and his rise from plant manager to president is nothing short of inspiring. Under his leadership, Pliant has navigated tough seasons and emerged stronger, with profit margins up 40% year over year. But what makes Jeff's story so powerful is the way he's transformed himself as a leader along the way. From learning to let go of perfectionism and unrealistic expectations, what he calls fantastical Jeff, to embracing servant leadership and empowering his team to lift the weight. Jeff has reshaped both his leadership style and the culture of Pliant Plastics. In this conversation, you'll hear how coaching helped Jeff see the blind spots holding him back, why culture and accountability can't be separated, and the practical disciplines he's using to sustain growth without burning himself or his team out. If you've ever wondered how to lead a company through transformation while also becoming the kind of leader people want to follow, this is the episode for you. Let's get straight into the conversation. Hey, it's really great to be with both of you. Jeff, I want to start with you, and I'd love if you would tell our audience a little bit about Pliant Plastics. And here's the caveat here. This is fully your opportunity to brag. So anyone listening, this is not Jeff bragging. This is me saying, Jeff, brag about Pliant Plastics for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. We're an injection molding company located in West Michigan. We serve primarily the automotive and medical markets. That's where we play mostly. We like to differentiate ourselves by being solution providers. So we do a lot more than just injection molding. So we focus on engineering support and value add and helping our customers come up with solutions. So we've got a really great team here. We got about 115 folks here at Pliant. They do an amazing job. A lot of the things that that Jean-Marie and I were working on are coming to fruition here, and it's fun to see the team just really step up. The progress over the last year has been just amazing. So, yeah, really proud to be a part of what we're up to right now.
I love that. I've really enjoyed getting a chance to hear a little bit about your journey from like plant manager to president at Pliant Plastics. I'm fascinated by the trajectory of leaders. And so I'd be really curious for you to share maybe some of those like early moments and what sets you up for the role that you currently have.
Yeah, I think the whole body of work, right? I mean, we have a career. I've been doing this for over 30 years. Got a really great start, a fortunate start with a company called Prince Corporation that was down in Holland. They're not around anymore, but they really, really opened my eyes to what servant leadership looked like, what people development, leadership development looked like. what an excellent operation can look like. I'm an engineer by degree, but really gravitated towards operational leadership and working with teams and helping teams be successful. So that's really where I kind of started this journey. And then, like everybody's journey, there's bends in the road. There's things that happen. Owned a company briefly, and ended up in certain circumstances got me back to our sister company, Shape Corporation, and then to this role at Pliant, and then had the opportunity to take the reins as president. So I love operations, but I really enjoy the general management roles that I've had even more. There's just a lot of variety to that, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. When you first started thinking through, hey, I wonder if getting an executive coach is a good next step for me, share a little bit of like your journey into coaching and then what brought you into the time with Jean Marie.
Yeah. So, boy, it's been probably 6-7 years ago, actually. We first got exposed to the coaching at Novus. And so my first coach actually was Jason Jaggard back 7 years ago. And, he told us at that time, that you get out of it what you put into it. And in subsequent coaching, it's gonna be different and better, which absolutely is true. But going into that first coaching with Jason, I definitely came in as a high performer with a high performing mindset. So I was looking for consulting more than I was looking for coaching, and I was looking for validation more than I was looking for vulnerability and growth. And so I didn't use Jason as well as I probably could. Our family of companies went through the meta performance management training and became, so I'm a certified coach for our organization. So I get to practice some of these skills at a JV level compared to what you guys do. But all of that training, I say that all because when I had the opportunity to get engaged with Jean Marie, I know what it takes to be coached well and different. So you can I was able to put a lot of weight on the bar. I felt like I was putting a lot of weight on the bar. I was being very vulnerable, which again, as a recovering high performer, not a big fan of always. But being able to do that, I mean, the coaching, I got so much more out of it after going through all that training and just being exposed to the concepts, just so rich. And I'm still getting benefits. I mean, there's things that I'm working on today, and Jean Marie and I haven't been working together for, it's been about a year now. And I'm still getting benefits from that. So.
Yeah. You said something about, being more coachable and you're differentiating between your time with Jason and your time with Jean Marie. And ultimately what I heard is Jean Marie is a better coach, which I think we would all agree about. But as we move beyond that a little bit, I'm curious, can you unpack that even like a little bit more? Like what, maybe for someone that's listening in and they're going, recovering a high performer, like what makes me, what's wrong with being a high performer? And if, as I go into being coach, how do I know I want to be coached and that I'm coachable? Play with that a little bit with us.
As a high performer, and we talk about survival skills. So look good, feel good, be right, be in control. My favorite is look good. I want to look good. And so that's as a high performer, what I'm going to default to. So to be able to confide in somebody, even a coach that I'm paying, to here's where I'm really struggling. Here's that bad thought that's actually really going through my head right now, and being able to share that and be vulnerable about that. It's hard. Like I said, I was looking for my first time through, more validation of, you're doing a great job. And that's not what was going to give me max value in the coaching space.
Jean Marie, I want to throw to you because you've been a prolific coach for many years in this space, and so I'm curious, what would you add to that?
You know what I appreciated so much about working with Jeff is that he really came prepared to our calls. Sometimes I think it's easy when people get introduced to coaching or they're not familiar with it to come and expect like the coach to do something. Go ahead.
Yeah, fix
And
it.
yeah, fix it. Go tell me like all your nuggets of wisdom. I'm like, "Eh." And Jeff, I loved how you came very prepared with what's your maximum value for the call. And you were really willing to slow things down. I think that's a challenge. Oftentimes people, they might have a lot of thoughts in their heads and they think, okay, I've got an hour or 45 minutes, whatever the call is. And now that means I need to fix all of these things in this time. And then we go really fast. And I think just slowing down and really seeing the through line through a lot of the conversations and a lot of the beliefs was so powerful. And your willingness to, like you said, put some additional weight on the bar and to really hold that. And, we had some good wrestles and you're a great sparrer. So I really appreciated that about you because if you're not going to be honest with your coach, then don't have a coach. Go get a cheerleader.
I want to go back to the beginning of that question as well, Jeff. So for this round of coaching, what were you hoping to accomplish? What was the vision that you would go, and whatever you're able to share? I get that there might be things that are a part of the company itself, but what was the vision that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, there was really two parts to it. And the first one was profitability. Through the pandemic, we're a manufacturing company, inflation, all the things. We had a lot of opportunity to improve in that space. And so the real focus was we've got to get profitability up to a certain level. So that was number one. But number two, I knew I was getting in our way. I knew I was getting in my own way. I knew I was getting in the company's way. And so when I first approached Novus about finding a coach, I said, I really need help on the soul coaching side of things more than the goal coaching side of things. And so that really was how are we going to focus on where I'm getting in my own way and try to shine some light on some of those things.
Yeah, there's something really inspiring talking to a leader that has accomplished so much. And the realization that like, hey, maybe I have something to do with where we are. And oftentimes, when we get brought into an organization, it's, hey, will you come in and fix everyone else? And I get that. What we've been able to do over the years is help to say, yeah, we would love to work with your team, but working with the leader is it kind of all rises and falls on you and your buy-in. And so everyone else getting new language, everyone else having new habits, everyone else having new tools, and you staying in the same space that you've always been in might not actually do what we're looking for. And so the enrollment of, we call it the primary client, that lead client. I'm curious, like, on one hand, where did some of that, like self-reflection come from for you to know that you wanted to work on it? And then I'm curious, like, how your team experienced you in the midst of some of that soul line coaching.
Yeah, that's great. I think the training through the meta performance management training that we went through, I mean, you can't help but start to notice as you go through that, where you just might be getting in your own way. And I had a lot of rackets that needed unpacking. And you can't perform surgery on yourself. Even if I was a great coach, you can't do that. You need somebody from the outside to do that. And I'm pretty resistant to that to begin with. I think just naturally, I tend to fight that. I remember with Jean Marie early on, making sure I told her, going, come right at me. I mean, be direct. Don't beat around the bush. Not that she needed that. I didn't know that at that time. But I remember in one of our first conversations, she said something. I don't remember what it was now. And I kind of went back and she goes, "Oh, is that too direct?" I'm like, "All right, here we go." So
I love that. We have a phrase within our world. It's beware a coach who doesn't have a coach. Why do we think everyone else needs coaching but us? And so that's one of the things that we've been very intentional with our coaches. Is every coach at Novus Global has a coach. It is a non-negotiable to be a part of it. And so it's fun to hear that translate into a company that is adopting meta performance as a management tool. And so you being a certified coach within your company and realizing, hey, this is not just for everyone else. This is for me. Shows a lot of awareness.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's all the time. It'd be the same reason you have a coach all the time is because you're never at the end of it.
Yeah, exactly right. Jean Marie, we started talking about how it began, and I've known you now for years, and so I would not have thought to tell you be more direct, or as directed. Yeah, you got it. I'm curious, like, share some of your early observations coming into this space. I think as coaches, we, I feel like I have like notebooks filled with, I wonder if this is going to be a thing. I wonder where this is going to be a thing. And and not even to bring it to them, just to kind of level set as we dive into it. So I'd love to hear observations and things that happened as you were first getting started.
Yeah, I think my first observation that Jeff and I started to unpack, and it was also something that was a continual conversation, is the level of expectation on yourself that you had, right? When we talked about that, we gave it a name, and we call it Fantastical Jeff. And we all have this fantastical version of ourselves that lives internally in a conversation that has a lot of should. Like, I should be like this, I should be doing this, I shouldn't have done that. And the translation is, I should be performing perfectly all of the time, at all times, with every scenario and every person. And that conversation it's akin to perfectionism, but there's an element of it that is also a racket, in the sense that we also get a pass while we're doing that, because we're never how we should be. I mean, it's not sustainably. And who says that we set the bar for what that looks like in an ever-changing world with lots of different contexts and multiple relationships? And so being willing to, in a sense, embrace humanity, our humanity as human beings, as people, as leaders, and instead of, oh my gosh, there's this pressure that no one else is putting on you or me. It's the internal pressure of Fantastical Jean is always kind and sensitive and loving and says exactly the right thing and doesn't make mistakes and is never rash and doesn't get angry. Like, there's like lists and lists. And I'm not saying don't aspire to goodness. I'm saying notice where it actually gets in the way of goodness, because it's a taskmaster.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I still can hear you saying it, and I've said it to myself. I've talked to my wife about the fact that I have a lot of shoulds. I still remember you saying that you've got a lot of shoulds, and I love the way that you did that. It didn't feel shaming or judgmental. It was just a notice that I got a lot of shoulds, and to be able, again, trying to see where I'm getting in my own way and noticing where that's happening and how that's showing up. Because like you said, then you give yourself a pass going, I don't live up to any of these fantastical Jeff standards. And when we first named Fantastical Jeff, then we didn't talk about it that day, but I kind of went on a search and destroy. Every time that Fantastical Jeff was rearing his ugly head, I was wiping him out. And the analogy you gave, Jean Marie, is like, that's not possible. It's part of you. It's there. Think of it as a cat that just walked into the room, and you're noticing the cat, and you don't have to kill the cat. You can actually choose to make a different decision here, or choose to do something different here. And that was both freeing and helpful advice to get through that.
I love that. I mean, right now as we're recording, I'm taking that with me into some coaching because that is really, really good. Jeff, you can talk me out of going here, but you mentioned something that I wanted to ask about. You talked about kind of bringing some of the language home with you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as coaches, we are very aware that we're coaching the whole person, that there's a whole person in front of us. It's not just a result. So, we all heard you say earlier, that we use like soul line and goal line. It's like the soul line, the who am I, and the goal line, what will I accomplish? And so talk a little bit, if you're open to it, about bringing some of it home with you, and like, what did your wife notice, and what were some of those conversations like?
The single biggest lesson, as we unpacked some of the ways that I was getting in my way, and we were working through Fantastical Jeff and all that thing, was I had given up my agency. So I had all kinds of excuses why I was spending my days the way I was spending them. I didn't have agency over my schedule, or we talked a lot about how I would project integrity with others, but I was really crappy with integrity to myself. And Jean Marie and I unpacked the fact that you really can't have that duality. You either have integrity or you don't have integrity in that respect. And just because I said I was going to work out, or I said I was going to eat better, or I said I was going to get some sleep, or I said I was going to be present in a conversation with my kids, I would throw those under the bus pretty quickly and not follow through on those commitments I was making to myself, as opposed to I would show up on time for meetings. I'd show up on time and for my work stuff, but you can't separate those two. I was living, because I had given up my agency on that. That's just the way it is. Being able to identify that and be able to start to notice where I was doing that, and that's a process too. I mean, I'm trying to claw back my agency.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I remember having a conversation with a client fairly recently, and we were going through a broken commitment in the trust process, which I would imagine you've had experience, and we started talking through. He said, "I just changed my mind. It didn't feel valuable anymore." And I asked him if his business partner had asked him to do it, would it be valuable? And he was like, "Oh yeah, I would definitely do it if they had asked me to do it." And my question back was, when did you start respecting them more than you respect you? That's what I'm hearing you talking through, and I think there's something incredibly powerful. And it sounds like that followed you home in probably a powerful way as well.
And continues to, which is the beauty of it. It's not you go through a coaching engagement and then it ends and everything's all better. It doesn't work that way.
Oh, it doesn't? Oh, no. Shoot. I've been doing it wrong. I thought that after the session, session's over. So I fixed it, right?
But the residuals of those, like I said, I hear Jean Marie's voice very regularly when I'm shoulding, and my wife now as well with shoulds, she hears those too. So
that's amazing. Let's bring it back into Pliant Plastics. You had a vision around profitability, and I've heard a few things that you hit some pretty amazing milestones and some goals. I'm curious if you're able to share some of so what happened as a result of the coaching, as a result of your leadership, as a result of your team. Give me some of the end of the story on that.
We actually did not hit our goal in 24, but we're exceeding our goal in 25. So the efforts that we started when Jean Marie and I were working together, we didn't quite get there in 24, but the things that we did and the foundational work has really built on that foundation, and now we're ahead of plan. So, which is just amazing. Again, when you're focused on the soul coaching side of things. It's how I'm showing up and how I'm choosing to show up. And my tendency, again, this probably goes back to being a high performer, but when things get tough, I want to get into the weeds. I wanted to get into the details. And then I was neglecting the things that actually were going to have the biggest impact. As a leader, there's certain things in my point role that only I can do, or it just carries a lot more weight when I do it. And that's usually around strategy, and it's around setting visions, reinforcing visions, repeating the visions and the strategies, and then really developing. And some of the things I was doing, thinking I was helping, were not helping. And so being able to shift that to where, I got a great team. Just today, we had a customer tour, and it's my nature when we're given a customer tour and I'm on it, I'm leading the customer tour. And I specifically did not today. And my team knocked it out of the park. Three of them were with me, and they did it better than honestly, they did it better than me. They're closer to it. They know the details more, and it was great validation for the fact that I'm redirecting my efforts in a different way that are actually more impactful around the strategy, around really putting the weight on the bar for them and getting out of the way on some of this stuff where I'll take care of that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff will save the day.
It's fun.
Yeah. Well, and we get something from being the one that at least we think will come in and save the day. And it's probably not what we think we want to get. There's something, when you talked about the result, something that I've talked to clients about, and then Jean Marie, I'd love for you to make whatever I'm about to say like better, as you often do. But there's the goal, like the vision and the goal that we're working toward is meant to be a catalytic. There's a catalytic factor to it. Yeah, we all want to hit the goal, and that's amazing. But what we're actually working toward is for you to become the kind of leader that could hit the goal. And there's something really interesting, Jeff, as you talked about that, because it goes, hey, in the midst of our coaching, we didn't hit the goal, but I became the kind of leader that could hit the goal. And so later on we did, be ahead of schedule. And I know I've had that with clients over the years where we would go, hey, I feel like we're losing sight of we're not hitting the goal the way we thought we would. And it goes, great. Now let's start to reverse engineer that to the kind of leader you are and that you're moving into. And so I have a client right now who is very much in that space. They missed it in our first contract, and now in our second contract they've tripled their revenue goal. And it was like, well, all that it took to get to that place was happening in the first contract. And I think that's a really, really interesting way to look at it. Gina, what would you add? What would you like maneuver in, like correct in there?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's one of the things that really struck me. I think it was maybe our first conversation, Jeff. You had put out a goal for essentially growing the company 4 times. So 4 times as big in 10 years. And then you said, so my question is, who do I need to become to have that turn out, to be the leader that leads that huge increase and growth with maintaining a healthy culture? So that was another piece that was also really, mission critical. We don't want to just leave bodies in our wake. We want to become and preserve the culture and grow. And I think that, I'd love to think things take a really short amount of time, but almost nothing does. Everything worth doing it feels like a slog sometimes, it's like exercising, working out, building something. I regularly overestimate my ability. I think, oh yeah, I can just do that. It's going to take me, an hour. 3 hours later, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think for all of us, that's part of our fantastical imaginations, right? We love to think, yeah, we'll just hit that. We'll do that thing. I'll plug and play. I'll fix this. And yeah, sometimes that is great. Sometimes that works. And oftentimes we find that there is something else that's happening internally that is setting the stage or creating the platform for that type of geometric growth. And it's easy in those moments to like despise the waiting, despise the discipline and the continual, raising and lifting the bar. And I think when we do that, when we undermine the discipline and the patience that growth and greatness require, we can easily get frustrated and quit right, before the finish line. And that's common. It's common in our culture, in our world. So I love that you can start to see, like, we did a lot of work, and now, not in the time frame we exactly had, but still in a really great time frame, we're moving towards the thing that is most important.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm just better equipped, and it feels easier in a way, because I'm not slugging around all these shoulds and some of the things that were holding me back. We're moving faster. I'm moving faster, but in a more efficient way.
Yeah, and I love that, because I sometimes, in talking with prospects or new clients, they don't necessarily connect the ROI to the way of being. And I would say there is always an absolute direct line there. If you're willing to look, if you're willing to find it, if you're willing to play with those metrics, because every attitude, every bit of energy, right, that you spend, because leadership is mostly energy management, every conversation that you have or don't have, all of that trickles its way down to the bottom line, because your time is expensive, your people's time is expensive, and you're pulling levers that don't need to be pulled. So I think that is so powerful, to really notice that I'm doing the things that only I can do, and that is saving time, and that is saving money, that has a direct impact on the bottom line.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very true.
I'm curious, like, how long did you two work together?
I think it was supposed to be a 6-month, but I think with scheduling that, it rolled into about 8 months, I think was the length of time.
My experience, you had been coached before, so maybe you got all this out with Jason, and that might also be an interesting story. But I'm curious where there were moments, or were there moments in the coaching that you felt that you think maybe you hit a wall, or a concept that you would go, I just don't know. And what was it like being able to wrestle that out with your coach?
Well, again, you can't perform surgery on yourself. So one of the ways I get my way, and I'm well aware of it, is negative soundtracks. So if you've read the John Acuff book on that, it takes that apart pretty well. But fantastical Jeff can fill and shoulds can fill my head pretty quick. I think, again, just she was so good at helping me notice where I was doing that, even in ways, because even if we were talking about someplace I was doing that, as we were wrestling with it, parts of that would come out, and becoming really, really aware of how I was talking to myself and how I was treating myself in ways I would never treat anybody else. I think that's, and if I were to get engaged with Jean Marie or another coach again, I'm guessing that's, I don't know that it's better, but I don't know if that ever is going to go away. That's very disempowering of me, but it's something I struggled with for a long time, and it's still there. It was there I'm sure with Jason. We probably never got that deep because I didn't invest like that.
You know what I was thinking, David, when you asked that question, is that because Jeff you've been coached before, you're familiar with a lot of the tools and the survival skills. And I remember a conversation that we had, and I said, well, we were basically breaking it down. And I said, well, what's the payoff from that belief? And you were like, well, the path has been looking good because I like to look good. And then you're just like on to something else. And I'm like, and that's like the dark side of having coaching or being familiar, that sometimes we're like, we check the box. Like, yeah, it's because I want to look good. Like, hold on. We could actually talk about how that plays out for 30 minutes. Slow it down. There's a lot there. And I think for all of us, that's part of the danger of being so familiar with some of the tools and some of the principles that we're not really applying them. We're checking them off a box. And I think that is human nature. So nothing about you. Like, we all have done it. We all do it. And what does it look like to have somebody walk with you and slow it down and like, yeah, you might have seen it in this aspect, but let's look at 20 other aspects and really pull it apart.
And I remember that conversation now that you say that, because you said what else, I'm sure 40 times during that, because you made me do the work there of what are the payoffs and what are the costs. And I was like, I don't know anymore. And what else? And that was equally frustrating and helpful all at the same time to actually, like you said, slow down and dig through that, because there's more there than just checking the box. I agree.
Yeah, it's one of the things as leaders, we value speed so often, and I've grown to love this in the coaching space, is that it is a space that is intentionally slow. Let's slow down is a common phrase, I think, for many of our coaches. Hey, I'm so glad that you noticed that. Let's slow down. And to sit in that space, because most of us, including us as coaches, that's why we have coaches, are just ready to move on. Yep, lesson learned. Got it. Now what? And that is our residual high performer, rearing its head, rather than us, again, living in this, oh, wow, I do want to be curious about what else. I do want to understand more of like, where could that have come from, or what is the cost of this? And again, I think, when we're moving fast, you don't have time to look at cost. When you're moving fast, you don't have time to actually slow down and look at yourself in the mirror in that space. And I think that there's something really powerful about it. You mentioned a couple of times meta performance management training, and you have kind of this like a family of companies, and so with Shape, Pliant Plastic, I'm so curious how you've seen meta performance kind of infiltrate and shape the culture of those companies, with multiple people being able to interact with it. So sometimes we come in, it's one person. We coach a leader. But you have this really interesting perspective of being able to see it on multiple levels that I'd love just to double click into.
Part of it is a common language, just to start with. I mean, that's super powerful to have when we can throw around terms. Probably the easiest one to see application for here at Pliant has been the whole idea of an intuitive fence, and to understand that we all have them, and that we want to poke at those, and we want to stretch those, and if we're going to truly see what we're capable of, that's really what's got to happen. And even outside of those of us that have been through the coaching, that's a term you can hear folks talk about around here is our intuitive fence. And so that's been super powerful. The other thing that we do across companies with folks that have been through it is, okay, I'm not going to engage with a coach necessarily, but I have this one thing, and hey, would you coach me on this one thing? And so we'll, on a regular basis, call each other and just, hey, can you coach me on this? And that's a great, I guess, community or fraternity of folks that understand the skills and the benefits of it, and we're willing to be vulnerable with each other to help us with that. So that's been another great way that we've seen it kind of across the companies.
I'm not sure if you'll know this number, but do you roughly know how many people have either been coached or who have gone through the meta performance management training?
At Pliant, we've had 5 go through. I think at Shape, probably 30 or 40, I would guess, total. Yeah, we've had a couple different cohorts now go through. So I think we're on about the 3rd generation. I was in the first group, and then I think there's been 2 subsequent groups of coaches now.
Yeah, there's something really wonderful about having, as you said, common language. But I've noticed that when I'm talking to people that understand even just the basic concepts around metaverse, someone that just read the book even, is able to have a conversation and be open to a conversation that they're not open to before. And so as you've leaned in, and you were there, it sounds like you were there before the first group got it, and then moving into it, I love the common language. Are there other things that you've noticed that were that have started to kind of shift in the culture?
Those 2 are great examples, I think. But I think you just move faster when you have that common language. There's an alignment towards trying to see what we're capable of, as opposed to trying to check some boxes on a list. And again, it's that I think between high performance and meta performance, that's kind of the key in trying to make that shift. And organizationally, we're trying to make that shift. And I think culturally, that's probably the nexus that we're wrestling with right now, is because not everybody's been through it, and not everybody might even see the value of it. But those of us that have had the training, and some even outside that, are really curious about, wow, I want to see what I'm capable of. I want to see what we're capable of. I understand this intuitive fence thing, so I can see where mine's at. And when you're in a meeting with people that don't understand or aren't willing to look at that concept, you get a lot of, well, we can't do that. We can't do this. We tried that. We've tried that before. And when that concept is kind of universal, then it's okay. We did, but today's a new day. It's different. There's different circumstances. And what would it take to do that? If you could wave a magic wand, that's always a good, way to start to challenge those intuitive fences. And how do you want it to be? Those are good questions also along those lines. So culturally, for making progress and trying to figure out what's possible, I think that's, again, where culturally, I think we're shifting more and more towards every day, every year.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing when leaders have the permission to ask themselves what's possible, and then what happens when a team has the permission to ask themselves what's possible, and then what happens when a whole company has the permission, right? There's something that becomes really powerful in there, because I think as, again, also a recovering high performer, it's easy for us to kind of go, well, I don't want to, and I think we have the same affliction, and I don't want to look bad. I don't want to aim for a thing, try a thing, miss the thing, and then now I look bad. I want to be, and then you fill in the blank of whatever that looks like. And I think a lot of leaders live within that, but to have a culture where the invitation is actually you having a vision, and you exploring what's possible, you exploring what's outside of your intuitive fence. There's almost no option to look bad in that. That is nothing but celebrated. And when cultures embrace that, some really, really amazing things start to happen.
And that's a great point, just about wanting to look good and not fail, because in the absence of that, there's a lot of fear in the room of folks, including me, like you said, they don't want to fail because you're going to look bad, or it's going to have some negative consequence. But if you readily admit up front, we're going to shoot for something a little crazy here, and we're going to test the boundaries of our intuitive fence, and we're going to see what happens. And yeah, it might not work, but we're going to try it, and it's okay. We'll learn something, and we'll try something else.
Yeah, I think ultimately it is always more satisfying, even failing at the unprecedented, than succeeding at the predictable, right? And we get so used to just succeeding at the predictable. Like, oh, we did 5% growth last year. We're going to do another 5 this year. Or we did this. We're like, and we live in these increments that feel doable and safe. And essentially, it's like letting someone else or a culture or an economy or an industry set a standard for you about what's possible for you. And I think that's where people that are trapped in a high performance mindset, they don't necessarily always see that they're living in someone else's bar. They don't even know their bar. They don't want to play. So I'm just living in, hey, this is what the last guy did. This is, X amount better than this last person. And so unconsciously, we're proving something that is a limitation based on whatever happened before, which is not always a very compelling, metric to live life by.
Jean-Marie, I did not set you up for this, but I wonder if we wrap part of our time, I'll set it up some here. I was in meetings earlier today, and I said to the team, hey, as I'm going through my day, one of the things I get to do is I get to interview Jeff McMartin. And I had people on our team go, gosh, I love that guy. And so you've made an impact, beyond, even the few coaches you've had. But I'm curious, we do something around here where we do acknowledgments and affirmations. We help teach cultures to do this. And again, I think it is one of the tools that helps people move faster. And I'm curious, it's obviously it's been a little while since you're coaching Jean-Marie with Jeff. But I'm curious what you would acknowledge him for in the work that he did with you, and as the leader he is, and then we'll come into kind of our last question of our interview here.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's an easy one. Jeff, I acknowledge you for your willingness to do the work, for your heart for people, for your humility, and just being willing to apply things to yourself and also engage your team with a heart to serve them. I acknowledge you for not trying to put yourself first all the time and muscle your way in, but really considering how you're also bringing your team up and releasing their greatness and equipping them. I acknowledge you for the way that you care for your family, for the intentional time that you set with your wife and your daughters during your coaching experience. And I acknowledge you for the way that you've chosen to rest and play your guitar sometimes. You knew you weren't going to get out of that.
I wasn't going to get past that one. I received that. Thank you.
I love that. I love that. Jeff, I really have appreciated the time with you, and you and I had not connected, though I had heard your name many times before. So I was looking forward to this. As we wrap our time, I'm curious what's next for you as a leader. What's next for Pliant Plastics as you continue to meta perform moving forward? Where are you headed?
Yeah, we've got some really good momentum now that we've been building upon, and so it's super exciting. We're headed into strategic planning for 2026, which is crazy to even say out loud, but it is that time of year. So, unlike maybe years past where we're trying to figure out direction, we've got direction now, and like I said, I'm blessed with just an amazing team. So, how do we figure out what we're capable of? How do we set our sights for 26? And we're trying to build our Pliant Medical brand and grow that side of our business. And so there's some super exciting stuff happening on that side that we're getting engaged in. And so that's a lot of fun. But I would say at the end of it, it's building on the momentum that we have, because we've got some really, really good positive momentum. And along with that, there's the array of challenges and issues and all of that goes with it. But yeah, that's what we're up to, and that's where we're pointing towards.
Jeff McMartin, Jean-Marie Jobs, I appreciate you both so much. And it's been great talking to you. Thank you.
You too, David. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
All right, we have a few more things to let you know about before we go. First, podcast reviews really help us serve more people. So if this podcast is helpful for you, we'd love your help to get it into as many leaders' hands as possible. Please leave us a review, even if it's not 5 stars. And if you really want to go the extra mile, let us know what you'd like to hear more of, or what you think we could do better to serve you and the people you care about. Okay, second, we have more resources for you online, and they're all free. We have free assessments, educational videos, articles from sources like Fast Company, written by our coaches and clients, all designed to help you use our tools in your everyday life and leadership. To dive into the free treasure trove of goodies we have for you, go to novus.global and then click on resources. Some of you have been listening for a while and you haven't yet taken that next step to hire a coach. This is your time. I can't tell you how often I've heard from clients around the world that they wish they would have talked to us sooner. If you have a sense that you're capable of more, we would be thrilled to explore what coaching could do for you and those you influence. Simply email us at begin@novus.global or click the link in the show notes. You also might be listening to this thinking, maybe you want to be a coach, or maybe you already are and you have a vision to build a 6 or 7-figure practice coaching people you love in a way that brings life to you and your clients. Well, that's why we created the Meta Performance Institute for Coaching. It is an in-depth coaching apprenticeship designed to help you create the coaching practice of your dreams. The first step in exploring that is simple. Just go to www.mp, as in metaperformance.institute. There we have free assessments to help you see what kind of training you need to create the coaching practice the way our coaches do at Novus Global. Thank you so much for listening. We love making these for you. And remember, dare to go beyond high performance.